Hi everyone. So I'm a little bit nasal because the change in the weather. We're now in like autumn and it's like I just not built for it. But anyways, I was contemplating doing this video a while now, and I'll be honest, I was kind of afraid because anything to do with sensitive topics, I feel like, and people speaking on them, I feel like you get targeted. But to be honest, I've been targeted quite a lot already, just without speaking out about things or like speaking out a little bit about it. So I was like, what the hell? So today I am doing how to receive racism or how to be the recipient of racism. I know it's a tricky one, but the reason why I'm doing this one is because just in August, a friend from high school, she visited France, and we met up for dinner, and we were just talking, and she asked me, well, and me telling her stuff about how it goes here and stuff, and she's like, oh, what does racism look like in France? So I was like, well, I told her everything, right? So I said, let me really do this video. So it's how to be the recipient of racism. What does racism look like in France? So, I mean, there's racism everywhere. It's a touchy subject. And I know a lot of people will be like, oh, well, have an opinion or don't have an opinion or want to speak or don't want to speak on it. But this is what happened with me, right? So, when we moved here, I've gotten it. I've got what I believe is, racism, attacks of racism is like through the immigration process, from random people, through just from my neighbors, from things to do with my career. And a lot of times, and I think this, and the reason why I say a lot of times people may not always realize that they're being racist. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt in that situation. Um, and I just think maybe if we talk about it, things will be better. So, for instance, I live in a fairly nice place. It used to be like a chateau, so there's like apartments now, and there's these nice grounds, and like nice garden, nice woodland, tennis court, whatever. And so I have this neighbor, and she's a white French woman, older person. I don't know, I'd say close to 60. And one day I was out with my kids, like my young daughters. At that time they were 3 and 4. We were outside on our terrace, and I had a little pool, the inflatable pool out because it was a really hot day, and I was playing soca, calypso music, and we were dancing and playing in the pool and stuff like that. And literally, we were only doing this for like about a half hour. And she comes across, she was like leaving to go somewhere. She comes across with someone who spoke English, and she was all in the huff and puff, and she's like, oh, it's too hot for it to be so loud, and she's rattling this off in French, and her friend or whoever is trying to translate to me in English, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, and I actually took off the music. I was like, I don't mean anything, man. I didn't really, and it was a little bit loud, so like nothing was wrong with that, but she continues on and on and on, and like I'm not getting everything, and her friend is translating to me in English, but only thinks some parts, right? So like I hear it, like she says she's like she could call the police, she's gonna call the police, right? And her friend translates this to me and saying that some people may want to call the police, but I know that's not what she said. And I was like, and I got me really upset because she sees with my two young daughters playing in the pool. Like this was around 1 o'clock in the day. It wasn't in the night. It wasn't anything like that. And we were only gonna play for like a half hour because their nap time was like right there. So I thought I'd tire them out a little bit. Anyways, even if she was just being bitchy neighbor, okay, she did. But then this same woman, fast forward a little while, a couple months later on, my older daughter is suspected autistic. So, as a parent, you try to do everything that you could do. So I got a puppy and a kitty, and I am a dog person, not a cat person, but I still got them because she really likes kitties and animals. When we got the puppy a couple months after, he's not very noisy. He doesn't bark a lot, and like he used to sleep with us and everything, so we know that he wasn't making noise like late in the night and anything like that. And just one day, I'm home alone with my puppy and my two daughters. It was like in the evening, like around like 5 or so, and she comes banging down my door, and she's like, oh, and she starts yelling at me in French and doing like this, and she's yelling at me because she's like, your dog is making too much noise, and I'm like, what? He's right here, he's not making any noise. And I was like, well, in case that he was making noise when we went home, I was like, well, he's a puppy, he's young, right? And in France, you have to understand, everybody has dogs, everybody have pets. It's like everybody, like in my building alone, it's like almost everybody has a dog. So I don't even know how she knew it was my dog, because she lives in the opposite building on the back side of the building. Anyways, so we continue. Like, she's yelling and shouting at me, and like the more I don't understand, like it's frustrating her even more. So she's just like this, and she keeps doing that. And then she's like, she's going to the condo board, the residence board, and she's going to the police. She's gonna call the police. So I was like, okay, call the police then, right? Because she was not calming down at all, no matter what. And then my daughter is behind me because she was like, oh, mommy, who's it? And she is crying because she's scared. And my other daughter, who's suspected autistic, is sitting down in the corner of my living room cowering, right? But I didn't see her until I came back from the door. So and when I told her to call the police, like, that got her crazy. So I closed the door. I tried to close the door, and she tries to push it open, right? And she's just like yelling at me and whatever and stuff like that. So I finally get the door closed. I tell her, call the police, go ahead, call the police. And she goes banging down on my neighbor's doors and stuff. And I mean, like, people will be like, oh, well, she was just a bad neighbor. But this is what you don't understand about racism if you don't think that this is racism, right? It's these little things. The fact that she was emboldened, or she felt that she could do that. She saw my two little daughters around. It's not like they don't know. She sees me holding a puppy. The fact that she was emboldened to do this and think that it was okay and it was her right. That, to me, that tells me a lot, and that tells me that she's definitely being racist. But I'll go further on with this story. So then I didn't know that she was actually on the board of the residence, right, for the residence. And I don't know, like, she enlisted a lot of her friends, or like she told the story to her whoever she knows or whatever thing. And suddenly I can't walk around anywhere without some old white person having to tell me something. And that's like and it's crazy what they're telling me. Like, one lady told me, I was on my way to the pool in my bathing suit, and she told me to go change my clothes, that that's an appropriate clothes for to walk around the residence. And I was like, what? This is France. People just be topless on the beach and they're walking around. Like, and as she's saying that to me, a girl is coming out of her building, because they always do it from a distance for the safety, or, I don't know why, because I could like attack them. Although I'm not the one being aggressive. I'm like I try to be such a nice neighbor. And yeah, so she's telling me, I was like, what, are you kidding me? And then, like, another time, I'm with my daughters again, and we're drawing with chalk in the driveway, right outside our building. And I'm teaching them about the solar system. So we're drawing the earth and the moon and the stars and stuff like that. And like the neighbor across there, who's also friends, I happen to get to know that all these people are actually friends with the first lady who came and complained about the dog and about the pool and stuff like that. They came outside with their phones and started to video myself and my daughters drawing on the driveway with chalk and telling us that's not normal and in French, and then they started to tell me in English it's not normal, you need to clean it and stuff like that. So me not wanting to aggravate anybody further, I go with like water and a watering can, like, and a push broom, and I clear it out because, and they always do this when I'm with my kids, when I'm with my daughters, and then my daughters have to be scared because these people are just yelling at us, and they don't know what they're yelling at for. And now, like my daughter, the younger one, when, like, if I tell her, oh well, no more chocolate today, she's like, oh mommy, the police, the bad lady will call the police and the police will take you, because of that incident with that woman. So all these people, right, who are her friends or who she may have told the story to, and they're like, oh, yeah, she can't do that. And the fact that they feel emboldened to approach me for these trivial things, trivial, and I say trivial because it is. And not only approach me, they don't approach me in a nice way. They yell, they shout, they make gestures in a derogatory way, and they do it in front of my kids. The whole point that they can do this and think that is okay, let me tell you, that is racism right there, right? And they always do it in this way, like, that makes me feel like complete shit. And I try most times, I don't, because I'm with the girls, I try my best to hold it in or don't say anything, and we just stop the activity, and we go. So this is just in the area that I live, right? And don't get me wrong, there are lots of nice people here, like a lot of nice people, and it's only because of the support of those nice people that I'm able to be okay. Because every time it happens, every time I am the receiving end of these racist attacks, I feel completely like shitty, and I cry, and I'm depressed, and I don't want to do it. I don't feel like I could enjoy the place that we live. I don't feel like I could take my girls. And there was one point that I was like, I'm not going to anywhere on the shared spaces unless my husband is with me, unless Justin is with me, and the girls, because I don't want anybody telling me anything. And the thing about this is that most times he's not there, and like, when people tell me stuff. So, then this, in France, it's a little bit tricky, right? Because when you don't understand the language, sometimes you're not even sure if they're just being French or they're really being racist. Because, like, this other time now, like, in immigration, I can't tell you how many times going through the immigration process I have cried and just wanted to leave and go back to Trinidad, like, so many times, right? But the thing about it is that what people don't know when they see us, they just see, like, oh yeah, these dirty immigrants or whatever. And like, I'm like, bro, why do you have to go there? Why? What is wrong with being an immigrant in the country? You get treated like, holy shit, it's crazy. And the thing about it is that my daughters are French citizens and my husband is a French citizen. It's just me who's the immigrant here, and like, but by extension, everybody gets treated badly. So when when I went through this immigration process, there was one time that I was actually working. I got a job even before I moved to France. So I was working and I took time off to go to my appointment. And this woman, the immigration officer, proceeds to treat me like, "Oh, why you want to live here?" I was like, "Well, my family, French, and so we decided to move here and stuff like that." And then she's all upset with me that I don't speak the language. And she's yelling at me in French that I don't speak the language. And I'm like, yeah, I'm learning. But that's besides the point. Then she proceeds to tell me, she's like, "Oh, you need to work. You need to go get a job like a cashier or something." And I'm like, but I already told her that I was working, right? And so I repeated again. I was like, "Well, I already have a job. I work." And then she's like, "Oh, as a cashier or in a store or something." I'm like, why is she pushing this with me? Nothing is wrong with being a cashier, right? But she just assumed that that's what I was doing, and I was like, "No, I'm a comedy missions accountant," And then she looks at me like, "Oh well, still I'm like, she's not wrong," or like, "Yeah, okay." And she still have this air of like, like, I'm better than you, or like looking down at me like that. And I'm like, holy shit, that whole interaction made me cry. I called my husband right after. I'm like, "I want to go back. I want to go back home." And he's like, "Okay, if that's what you want to do, we're gonna go." Because every time is like really really hard. I mean, it's yeah. So when people ask me what does racism look like in France, it's just like everywhere else. And I didn't know the term. I felt it, and I could like try to explain these little things and people don't get it, but it's microaggressions, and it's it's everywhere. I get it. Once I go outside and interact with people or do something, I'm gonna get it every day, like for sure, for sure. And people don't understand how that adds up, what it does to your sanity. Well, how you feel uncomfortable to just live, just to be you. Like you're not, you lose all your motivation, all your zeal for life, because you're like, "Oh my gosh, what do I have to do?" I mean, it's crazy, because you want to believe that, oh yeah, of course it is better than it was how much ever years ago. I mean, like, I could do things that my grandparents couldn't, or like my parents couldn't. But yeah, but what I go through now is still hard and still difficult, and still you have to think like, why am I doing this, or how can I continue on? And it's just a daily struggle. And the thing about it is that I know, like, a lot of people sometimes they just cannot understand. So I'm not just saying this because I want to attack somebody. I'm saying this because I want you to understand my story. And you may listen to it and say, "Oh well, that's not racism." But it is, and because it's tiny. The whole fact that people are emboldened to tell me something about something very trivial that they may not tell somebody else, and they feel it's their right to do so. That is it. That is what it is. So, okay, for example, if you I wrote this down so I don't miss any points, because I thought about this, right? So if you at any time, as a person who not sure if they're racist, or you can't understand it, if at any time you think that this trivial matter, like you speaking up about it or speaking to this person about it, you think that you're doing this for a betterment of your country or your culture or your religion or something like that, then yeah, it probably is prejudiced in some way, right? If if at any point in time, right, you are thinking, or you may say, "These people," that phrase, "these people," yeah, prejudice, racist, most likely. And if you wouldn't if you think about it, and you wouldn't tell this to somebody who is similar to you, as in ethnicity, religion, whatever, if you are not going to tell this same thing that you're going to tell this person for a trivial matter, something that doesn't really affect your life, like, I don't go telling my neighbors stuff that I see them do that I know are against the rules of the residence, but it was not a big deal. I mean, if somebody parks a little bit too close to, the curb, or something like that, and inside the residence, it's not affecting anybody really. Or if they water their plants, and a little bit of water drips on your balcony or something like that. I mean, come on, seriously. Then the other thing is like, okay, so if you think that what you're about to say could be perceived as racist, it is. It is racist. I'll just stop it right there and tell you it is racist. And you may say to me, well, why? Like, this is like from my ancestors, or like why is that you carrying that burden of, like, just because you're white, or just because you're something like that, like, I can't say a certain thing because it might be perceived as racist. Well, it's a burden you have to carry. The long and short of it is that it is a burden you have to carry, because I carry burdens. I carry lots of burdens that are from not only my ancestors but from yours too. Like, I have to exist in a society that is made and constructed completely to give me a disadvantage of life. I don't have equal opportunity at anything. I'm trying to change the system. Somebody would say to me, well, it's not my fault. It is what happened in the past, but you are benefiting from that system. You have an advantage for that. And I'm not saying to give back everything you have, but I'm saying to acknowledge that. Acknowledge that and understand that, yeah, that is in itself is a burden. The fact that you are benefited from something that was unfair in the past and was constructed by ancestors, that's your burden to carry. And your burden is to help change that. Just like it is my burden to try and weave my way through the system and change it. The burdens are different, but it still is a burden, and I understand. But we don't say that you don't speak up and say, well, I want to be able to say this, and it's not racist. It's just your burden to carry. Because trust me, people who are recipients of racism, I am 100% sure that they don't even speak up about 1% of it. What I'm telling you is literally, on my entire life, 1%, less than 1%. It's not even, there's been so much, and most times you brush it off your shoulders and you won't move on. But what are you supposed to do? But oh man, it's a lot. It's a hell of a lot. So I know this was a heavy video, but okay, I have one more thing, right? This might lighten it up a little bit, I hope. So if you are going to say something about a trivial matter to someone, and you may like to eat their food once in a while, but you think it's spicy, it may be racist. Okay, it was just trying to be funny, okay? It's because I don't want it to be like I'm attacking anybody. I'm just sharing my experience, and I really, really want things to change. I don't know how.